want to briefly talk about the latest book that I just finished, The Roanoke Girls by Engel. I'm not really going to go into any detail. It was a book that I pretty much just breezed through and didn't really have too much of a connection with. And it was one of those that was just kind of there. So it's just going to be super brief and not really detailed, but just kind of laying it out of who's who and what kind of went on. So I'm going to quickly read the book description on the Goodreads because I don't have the book with me anymore. It's beautiful, rich, mysterious. Everyone wants to be a Roanoke girl, but you won't when you know the truth. Lane Roanoke is 15 when she comes to live with her grandparents and fireball cousin at the Roanoke family's rural estate, following the suicide of her mother. Over one long, hot summer, Lane experiences the benefits of being one of the rich and beautiful Roanoke girls. But what she doesn't know is being a Roanoke girl carries a terrible legacy. Either the girls run or they die, for there is darkness at the heart of Roanoke, and when Lane discovers its insidious pull, she must make her choice. So just from the description of the book, you definitely know that there's something kind of iffy, kind of suspicious with the family. My first go-to was something like the grandparents that Lane went to live with is kind of the focus of what's wrong with the family, and that pretty much sums it up, and that's pretty much laid out the first little bit when you read. So Lane, who's our main character, she has definitely had a rough childhood. Her mother never had any real emotion towards her other than like hate, resentment, and disgust and sorrow towards having her as her daughter. I mean, it even mentioned that one day they were both laying on a bed together, and then Camilla, which is Lane's mother, tried to strangle her. So, I mean, there's no real love in that. And then eventually Camilla went and, killed herself. Allegra is Lane's first cousin. I think Eleanor is Allegra's mother, who is Camilla's sister. Allegra's mother had her, and then left her with Gran and Granddad, and just split like she left. They don't know where she is. So Allegra was raised with Gran and Granddad pretty much taking over her as her parents, so they raised her. And Allegra was pretty much the only technical Roanoke girl that was at Roanoke, and she was the complete center of Granddad's world. And she was a little spitfire, so she did whatever she wanted to do whenever she wanted to do it. Then you have some of the boys that Allegra and Lane befriended, had some relationships with in the book, and they're a big part of how the story plays out. There's Tommy. He's a goody two-shoes, nobody can do no wrong by him, and he ends up being a deputy in the town, still respectable, was madly in love with Allegra, would pretty much do anything for her. I guess she waited too long to actually make any move, or she wasn't going to make any move. She liked to keep Tommy under her thumb, but then Tommy quit waiting, so he went ahead and got married, started a new life. So he wasn't, or we thought he wasn't, under her spell anymore, I guess you can say. Then we have Cooper, who pretty much was Lane's love interest. He was beaten and abused by his father. He wanted to try and steer clear of that. Took some time to work on himself. He got on his feet. He has his own home. He runs his own business that his dad used to have. And he seems to pretty much have never given up on Lane after she also left town. Then we get to Granddad. He was, to simply put it, a sick and twisted old man. He groomed his siblings, his daughters, his granddaughters, into thinking like they were making their own decisions, in that he loved them and truly loved them, and making them think that they're making their own decisions to have a sexual relationship with him. And he's done this throughout his whole life, and everyone thinks it's okay that they were living there. But, you know, it's tried to be a secret that was kept. No one in town knew. Of course, there were suspicions. Girls kept dying or they kept disappearing. Then there's Gran, who is no relation to Granddad, who she married. But she knew all about this. She knew what was going on and really did nothing to stop it. She was really just jealous of the girls and hated them. You know, finally came to the point where she hated them. And then in this book, especially to Allegra, she took everything into her own hands, which is what a lot of this book is about. So Lane's mom kills herself, and that forces Lane to live with Gran and Granddad. She left a little note for Lane, and it says that she's sorry that she couldn't wait. Lane had no idea what that meant. She never really spoke to Lane about what was going on, and never really told her anything about what went on at, you know, in her life at her home, what it was like to live in Roanoke. So Lane was not prepared in any way for what was going to be uncovered when she moved into Roanoke to live with Gran and Granddad. When Lane finally got to Roanoke, she didn't have anything to worry about. She was fed, she was clothed, she was loved. You know, Gran and Granddad loved her. Allegra gave her attention. She had all the attention of the boys, especially Cooper in the town. And then there was nothing really to suspect. She was well taken care of. She was well, you know, liked. Nothing out of the ordinary. So it was a different situation for her, since she never really got any kind of affection when she was living with her mother. So there was no reason for her to suspect that anything was wrong until she discovered one day Granddad and Allegra in bed together, all while she was waiting for a test just to confirm what she already knew about her being pregnant with Cooper's kid. So after that, Lane made it very clear that she was leaving. She wasn't coming back. She did not tell them about the baby, and then she was gone. So then we fast forward 10 years, and this is where the book begins. She gets a phone call from Granddad, who she's not had any contact with in several years, stating that Allegra has went missing. And of course, he knew that Lane was going to come help with Allegra, since she was the closest thing that she had to real family. From that point, it's a lot of going from now to then. There's really not much more to it than that, and that's just how I feel about it. Wasn't anything special going back and forth. I did really enjoy hearing about Lane and Cooper's flings while they were in the then part of the book. Just something a little different, something a little less heavy from what she was actually talking about. And then there was also some parts in the now where Lane and Cooper pretty much picked back up like nothing had happened when she left. Everyone in town thought Allegra was dead and pretty much knew it. I mean, nobody really goes missing in the town like that without you thinking that. That's just how any town is, real or fiction. And Allegra was always someone to be leaving like little carved notes on everything. So Lane knew that Allegra would not go anywhere without leaving a note behind, some kind of clue. And Lane just went looking high and low. She tore the house apart looking. She went through her vehicle, and then she finally found something. Somewhere that it was Lane's favorite place. And she didn't think to look there until she finally went and she found it. It was one simple word, and it said Gran. So, I'm going to spoil it, but simply, Gran killed Allegra. Lane went back to Roanoke that night. She confronted Gran. After they talked for a little bit, Gran just simply, she attacked Lane. And with that attack, she was going to kill Lane too. And then finally, just happenstance, Granddad walks in and stops it. With him stopping it, Lane was able to get away, make a phone call to Tommy, who I did say was a deputy in the town. They was able to get there. They got the full story of what all happened. The entire thing from when they was growing up. Gran was arrested from there, and she also gave a full confession. After that, Lane and Cooper left town to start a whole new life together. Start something new, start something fresh, to get away from Roanoke. So that's pretty much the sum up of this book. I mean, to me, there's not really a whole lot to it. It's just how it is. So my thoughts on this book, I thought it was a fast, easy, kind of a fun read. I mean, I thought it was obvious when I first read the description. The content of it, I wasn't very shocked about it. For me, it wasn't anything that was new. It could be the reason of my job. I deal with this stuff on a daily basis, whether it's murder or incest, rape. It's a day-to-day thing for me in my job. So none of this was anything shocking. For somebody else, it might be. It might be very triggering. It might be very uncomfortable. But for me, it was whatever. It was a day-to-day thing. I rated this book as a 3 out of 5 just because it was one of those that was there. It wasn't horrible and it wasn't super great, but just by reading it and thought it was fun for me to read. It was really quick. It was something entertaining. I would say, yeah, go ahead, give it a read. And it's The Roanoke Girls by Engel. And I think she has quite a few other books that seem to be interesting as well. So maybe not this book would be for you, but maybe another one by her would be something more your speed. But thanks so much for sticking through me. I know this one was pretty sucky, but that was just how I felt about it after I read it. I was just pretty on a flat level, plain, no ups, no downs. But yeah, give me a comment, give me a like, definitely a subscribe, give me just give me some suggestions maybe, something that you would think would be interesting. And, but I appreciate y'all. Thank you. Bye.